Today, we are creating a video called a paper slideshow video. This video's purpose is to be a review for governing the wetlands assessment. If you listen and go through this video several times and talk to your parents about what is inside, you are sure to do an awesome job on this assessment. This assessment was created by the Bickley's Blazers. One of the things on the assessment is going to be several different vocabulary words. One vocabulary word that you're going to need to be familiar with is common good. What is common good? What does that mean? Well, when you think about a habitat and the wetlands specifically, even more specifically thinking about the field trip that we went on to Mitchell Lake, common good is when two things interact together and it's a win-win situation. They're both good for each other. So for example, the Audubon Society is in a common good relationship with Mitchell Lake. The Audubon Society creates some funds for educating people about taking care of the wetland habitat, and that benefits Mitchell Lake by providing an educational experience for the people of San Antonio and around San Antonio. And that common good is, at the end of the day, it's going to protect wildlife, plants, and the ecosystem. Another vocabulary word that you'll want to be familiar with is ecosystem. The ecosystem that we've been focusing on is the wetland ecosystem. An ecosystem is when rocks, plants, and animals all work together and form one ecosystem. There are several different ecosystems, but the one that we're focusing on today is the wetland habitat. Conservation. There are things that all of us can do to conserve and to better take care of the world and habitats around us. It's important to continue water conservation in particular to save our natural resources. It's always important to pay attention to what our water heights are and follow accordingly with sprinkling and watering schedules. It's important to be aware of the water use that you do inside and outside and around your house, brushing your teeth, taking showers, and make sure that you use the least amount possible to conserve water. The more that we conserve water, not only will help our water supply in the future, but it helps all of the plants and animals around us be as healthy as possible, and therefore our plant and animal life cycles are as healthy as possible. Conservation. Landforms. When we talk about ecosystems and the wetlands in particular, it's important to know that the wetland habitat can be in any landform. You'll find wetlands in mountains, in hills, in valleys, and on plains. The wetland habitat can be found across all kinds of landforms. Again, landforms, examples are mountains, hills, valleys, and plains. The wetland habitat is made up of different kinds of wetlands depending on where it's located. It can include swamps, marshes, and ponds. The important thing to know is that a wetland is a habitat. We visited one of these habitats at Mitchell Lake. The next thing I'd like to talk about before handing this off to the Blazers is a food web. You're going to see an example of a food web like this on the test, and you're going to want to understand how it works. It starts from the bottom with plants. Insects eat the plants. Fish eat our insects, and birds eat our fish. So you're going to have a question like this on the test. If all of the insects were completely removed from this food chain, which plant or animal population would decrease first? Well, if all of the insects were removed from this food chain, the first plant or animal population to decrease would be the fish population. If all of the fish were removed from this food chain, which plant or animal population would increase first? Well, if there were no fish to eat all of these insects flying around, then the first piece of our food chain to increase would definitely be to have more insects. So you can see how the food web plays in harmony, and if one part of our food web is damaged or isn't working to capacity, it impacts the rest of the food web, most of the time in not a very positive manner.
This is a force of nature. This is an example of a flood. A flood is a force of nature. These are not forces of nature. Pollution. This is an example of pollution. This man is littering. Someone spilled a soda and spilled a soda and left it. You should not break the trees. Mistake. But you can lift cars. We destroy fish's homes when we make a bridge and we kill the fish.
And those were examples of what again?
Of non-forces of nature.
And our example of a force of nature
was a flood.
Thank you.
And now this is positive. First, you can plant a seed, then it goes to a seedling, and then it goes to an older seedling, and then it takes a long time to get to a donut. Adult, and then it turns to a tree. But then non-positive means that you cut it down, and then you can't. It's gone, and all of that hard work is not useful.
Good job. So these are positive and negative impacts that people make on the environment.
Yes.
So we want to plant trees and keep trees healthy and be very careful about what we're knocking down.
And not destroy them.
Boys and girls, talk about positive and negative things that people do to the environment. On the test, you're going to have to list an example of a positive and an example of a negative effect people can have on the environment. They can be CJ's example, or you can have an example of your own. Talk about it with your family.
So today we're talking about the plant and frog life cycle and how they are similar. So first we know it always starts out as a seed for the plant and our eggs for the frog. And we know both seeds and eggs hold the plant or the baby frog. So after a few days, the seed will start to sprout, and it's by the sunlight and rain. But the frog egg will develop into a tadpole. And the tadpole still has a tail, but it will grow its tail. Its tail will not be there by the time it's a frog. So now, after a few days or years, the plant starts to grow with a bud. And the tadpole turns into a froglet. So now it has grown legs and arms. The tail gets a little shorter. And finally, now we've got the adult tree has finally grown. Also, the frog has. So, on the test, you might have some questions about how these are similar, and you could just watch this video over and over to make sure that you got it right. So here's the cycle that we just showed. So the eggs turn into the tadpole. Tadpole grows up to the froglet. Froglet goes to the frog, and then frog will lay its eggs, and it starts all over. Same thing with the tree. The seeds to the plant that's sprouting, to the baby tree, to the adult tree, and then back to the seeds just by it like falling from, like, let's say an apple or something fell, these seeds fall. Then we've got our sketch of how this is, how this works. And so you see the plant and the seed, the frog and the egg, the sprouting seed and the tadpole, the plant and the froglet, the adult tree and the frog. So they all kind of connect because these hold the frog or plant. This is when it's just first getting out of its seed or egg, and this is when it's getting a little older and ready to grow into an adult tree or a frog, and then it grows into an adult tree and frog. And
so this is going to be a great thing to remember that everybody's sketched, right, Alex?
yes.
Everybody should have these in their science journal. So after watching the video, we encourage you to look in your science journal and look at the plant and animal life cycle to refresh your memory of what you drew.
So that's the end of our video.